I'm Lori Arnold, and this is my performance, which is an adaptation of Curious George.
Settle down, class. Jimmy, please sit down in the back, sir. Thank you. Today, we'll be reading a story. It's called Curious George. This is George. He lived in Africa. He was very happy, but he had one fault. He was too curious. Shh. Thank you. One day, George saw a man. He had on a large yellow straw hat. The man saw George too. What a nice little monkey, he thought. I would like to take you home with me. He put his hat on the ground, and of course, George, being curious, picked it up and took the large yellow hat.
All right, so here's the real story. This is Laverne. She lived in a small town, and she was very innocent, but she had one fault. She was too curious. One day, Laverne left for college. During her first week on campus, she saw a ton of booths. Every time she passed a booth, someone tried to talk to her, or ask her for some money, or hand her some information about her club. She felt overwhelmed by these overly friendly, kind of obnoxious people, but then one specific booth that had a large yellow sign on it caught her eye. The people at this booth saw Laverne too. Of course, she was curious, so she began to make her way to the booth from across the library mall.
Look at that innocent freshman. We should get her to join the Pokemon
She
Club.
should totally join. So Laverne read the large yellow sign that was on this club's table, and one of the girls from this booth put her Pokemon figures on the ground to show Laverne how cool Pokemon battles could be. Laverne picked up a pamphlet and put it in her back pocket while she read a bit more about the club from the big yellow sign.
The hat had been on the man's head. George thought it would be nice to have it on his own head. He picked it up and he put it on. The hat covered George's head. He couldn't see. The man picked him up and popped him into the bag. George was caught. Later, the man took the bag off of his head. George sat on the little stool and the man said, "George, I'm going to take you to a big zoo in a big city. You'll like it there. Now run along and play, but don't get into any trouble." But, you know, it's easy for little monkeys to forget.
Okay, so we're really sick of your story. So back to this one. Laverne thought it would be nice to be part of the club herself, but she realized that this was not the club she wanted to join. So she walked away and continued wandering through campus, and since Laverne didn't know her way around, she tried to use the map of the UNT campus, but found it was extremely confusing. After wandering around for a while, she noticed that she had passed the same eagle statue 3 times. Not knowing where to turn, Laverne called out to a guy walking in between classes and said,
Excuse me.
Yeah?
Where is the Gab?
The what?
The Gab.
Oh, the GAB. That's over by Fry Street.
What is the GAB? And what's Fry Street?
The GAB stands for General Academic Building. Everyone knows that. And Fry Street is only the best place to chill on Thirsty Thursday.
Thirsty Thursday?
Tell you what. Come meet me tonight at Lucky Lou's at 10, and then you'll see. Until then, go ahead and run on to class and don't get in too much trouble.
So Laverne was pretty excited about this extremely hot senior who had just asked her out to the bar that night. Good thing she had a fake ID made so she could get in.
The next morning, the man telephoned the zoo. George watched him. The man went away. George was curious. He wanted to telephone too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. What fun!
All right, so later that night, they all went out to Lucky Lou's, and Laverne watched as everyone from a distance was drinking and having a good time. Then she saw her friend show up and decided to follow him in. As she watched everyone drinking, he ordered Laverne a few shots. She was curious because she had never drank before, so next thing you know, it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. What fun! Until Laverne started losing control, and next thing you know, a policeman walked past the bar.
The next morning, the man telephoned the zoo. George had telephoned the fire station. The firemen rushed into the house. They opened the door. No fire. Only a naughty little monkey. "Oh, catch him, they cried. He almost did, but he got away.
Go.
Okay. He almost did, but he got caught in the telephone wire, and a thin fireman caught one arm and a fat fireman caught the other. "You fooled the fire department," they cried. "We'll have to shut you up where you can do no more harm." They took him away and shut him in a prison.
All right, so the policeman approached Laverne and said,
ID? No ID? You're coming with me.
Laverne tried to run away, but she tripped over her shoe and the policeman grabbed her arm.
You fooled the bouncer,
And nobody does that at Lou's.
but you didn't fool me. I'm taking you back to your dorm where the RA will keep strict tabs on you.
So the policeman took her away and shut her up into her dorm room.
Excuse me. Eventually, George got out of prison and found the man in the big yellow hat again. George and the man climbed into his car, and at last they went away to the zoo. What a nice place for George to live.
All right, off the scene. So the next morning, Laverne woke up with the worst headache she had ever experienced. And she found this yellow pamphlet in her back pocket and started to recall her first day on the UNT campus. What a weird place to go to school. Scene.